by the colonial powers and put in private collections for private exhibits, the Africans of Asia. Let me clarify the way of the gods in all cultures. Number one, they write the future before it happens in stone. Then they let the future happen. Then they send one back from the dead who explains it and reveals that which they wrote. This constitutes the execution of judgment. Now, this shows you that there are, in fact, 50 states in the United States, and there were 50 towers in this city. The future Buddha is to appear in a tower in the United States on the 7th terrace. There are 7 levels above his head. That's the esoteric teaching. On the walls of this is the story of the people whom this individual, the future Buddha, would appear among. Here we show the Europeans coming in to Africa. We see they have weapons on their shoulders. This is on the walls in this city. We see the African with his bow and arrow going to meet the European on the field of battle. We see the African with his elephants and his weapons of war going to meet the aggressor coming into his country. Here we see the two armies clashing on one single panel on the southern wall at the temple of the Bayonne in this city. The African army on the left, the European army on the right, and they clash in the center of this stone carving of the European invasion of Africa, as the Europeans load the African arms to the bottom of the ship and take off to America, onward to America. The Middle Passage, where the Africans are thrown overboard, the entire history or book of revelation or unveiling is shown in this city of the kidnapping of Africans from Africa. This city is a book of revelation, an apocalypse in stone. It is discovered by the one they call Maruk Bul, the future Buddha. He discovers and unveils the true meaning of this city. This is in the religious teachings of the people of Asia. He uses a city carved in stone, true book of revelation, the apocalypse, the book of revelation, which will be discovered and explained. And we will now take you to the true history of the United States of America and their slaves to identify the truth carved in stone thousands of years before it happens about these people, the Africans of America. This document, this is the true document of the slave trade from Great Britain or the British House of Commons. It consists of certified eyewitness reports of the satanic atrocities of slavery. The fact that it was a conspiracy is evident by the pattern of punishment and the systematic step-by-step method in which it was applied for over 400 years. It is an orgy in the infliction of pain on innocent people with eyewitness step-by-step reports on what they was supposed to do and what they intended to do to these people who they identified in their document as injured humanity. They meant to injure these people, and this was their intent. They referred to them as injured humanity. Christians did this to the children of Africa. The science that was used on these innocent people were based on universal cosmic laws. As you see here, there are laws that are above all man-made laws. They're the laws of the gods. They're the laws of the universe, and they govern all humanity. The two laws which we will focus on right now is called the law of karma, the law of cause and effect, and the law of polarity, the relationships between opposites. Both of these laws pervade all things in the universe, and this was the focus of the slave trade. We all know about crack. If a woman takes crack, we now know that that same addiction will be born into her babies. Crack addiction in the mother is born into the child. This natural law, the law of rebirth, the law of karma, the law of cause and effect, was used on the slave in a corrupted method, in a corrupted manner. The primary objective was to induce the fear of God into the slave. Fear is associated with God. If you fear someone, that person in your subconscious is viewed as God. And fear is something that you always have the expectation of once it's induced in you. So the primary objective to get the desired results would be the creation of a race of people that would worship the European race subconsciously as God. That's the objective. Pain and fear, the infliction of which would cause the slave subconsciously to worship the European as God. And this was the tools that they would use, the tools of instruction, their kit for a step-by-step infliction of pain on the innocent slave, so that the slave's children would eventually worship the European as God in their subconscious, but never consciously know what they were doing. This is one of the greatest, or the greatest crime ever committed by human beings, so-called human beings, against human beings. The infliction of fear and terror in babies for hundreds of years, and images, false images of God put before the babies to worship, so a race of people can be falsely worshipped as God. The slave masters used science. They knew that if they could put fear in the minds of the slave, that slave, children of those slaves, would be reborn with that fear in them, and that fear would affect what they see and what they hear. This was science used on the slave. If they put those images and affected the mind, it would affect what they see, what they hear, and exactly what they do. It was a science of the mind that was used on the slave. Images, the Bible, and the illiterate. Images are the Bible of those without education. You read the Bible, but the images are collected in your mind, and the images stay in your mind, but what you read may go away. This is carved on the walls in this city thousands of years ago by the black man of Asia to tell the story of the apocalypse. A book that would be revealed by this individual whose name you will find out in a short while. He is the future Buddha, the one who unveils the book of Revelation in a stone city, bringing the past and the future together. Now that we understand the science used to get the desired results of the false worship of the European as God by a group of slaves and their descendants, forever and ever if possible, now let's continue with the story. Once again, on the stone walls, we see the African and the Europeans in combat, fighting to prevent their people from going into slavery. To confirm this is an African people, on the right you see the djembe, a very popular African drum, and on the left you see the African talking drum, not the European, not the Asian, but the African talking drum, carved on the walls to show that this was an African people who were carried off as captives. Here it is on one panel with 3 levels. The war that took place in Africa thousands of years before it happened, carved in stone, bearing mute testimony to what really happened. Here is how the European artists of that time interpreted that event with his pen. The same event in the British Commonwealth, testifying to what they said that they did at that time to the black man. Here, the testimony from a rock in this hidden city tells exactly what happened, which was known by the gods. A testimony in silence from a stone, from a paper, in the British House of Commons. I just interpret what they said that they did with their pen to the mothership. $1,200 for Negroes. Negroes for sale, according to these documents, the authentic official documents.